Nashville Predators have a rematch with the Vancouver Canucks tonight. How do they avoid a letdown like the last time these two teams played? Plus, given Marc Del Gaizo an NHL call-up, how does he figure into the lineup? And Ryan O'Reilly plays his 1,000th game. What does he think about hitting that milestone? We'll hear from him today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day, every single day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, want to start out with a special hello to the loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys. We appreciate the support you give us week in, week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at the Hockey News.
Also want to mention today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. Again, that's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. On today's show, Nashville Predators taking on the Vancouver Canucks. This is not a rerun. They are playing Vancouver for the second time in 1 week.
Yeah.
Last time was home at Bridgestone Arena. Tonight, they are on the road against the Vancouver Canucks. A big moment for tonight's game. It's going to be Ryan O'Reilly's 1,000th NHL game. We talked to him about what he is kind of expecting tonight, sort of his legacy, and a lot of praise from the Predators in the past little bit about what Ryan O'Reilly's done for the team. So we'll talk about that in a second. First, though, couple of roster moves.
Yeah.
The Nashville Predators are making ahead of this road trip. Cody Glass has been moved to the injured reserve. Not really much of a surprise there, just because he's been out, and it seems like he's going to be out for at least another week at this point, if what we're hearing is right. And in his stead, the Predators have added to the defensive depth, bringing up Marc Del Gaizo from the Milwaukee Admirals, somebody, Ann, that you and I were really impressed with in camp and preseason, light years kind of beyond where he was when we saw him play last year.
Yeah, I am super excited about this call-up, and we'll talk about what is it going to look like in practicality in a minute. But just out of the gate, want to say how excited I am about this call-up because, like you said, Marc Del Gaizo really impressed, knocked the socks off a lot of people in training camp with his performance. Remember, he was one of the guys that hung around the longest before they announced the final roster. He got a lot of playing time in a lot of those preseason games. And Del Gaizo really came into training camp. He was a very interesting story. He came in, and you'll remember at the end of last season, he was not one of the Milwaukee players who got a call up as they were dropping like flies up here in Nashville. And Del Gaizo was very honest about it. He's like, look, I have a chip on my shoulder about that. Mm-hmm. Like I did not get a call. I did not get my opportunity. Now he was happy for the ones who did, but he came into camp with a chip on his shoulder saying, you're going to want to make me a call up. And he has done that, and I'm so excited about this. This guy is he is reliable defensively, but he has this kind of quiet little offensive upside. So super stoked for Marc Del Gaizo. Super stoked that he's going to be joining the team. Not stoked about the whole Cody Glass thing.
No.
Unstoked.
No, we'll get to that in 1 second. Marc Del Gaizo, though, this seems like kind of an insurance move right. With Luke Shen on IR. The Predators were only playing with 6 defensemen, so there wasn't a lot of wiggle room there. You're about to go on a long, 2-week road trip, so you want to have kind of the 7th person on hand so you don't need to scramble if anything happens. So this seems like kind of an insurance, but I'm with you. I would like to see Del Gaizo,
Yes.
get a shot just to kind of see what he would do. Here's the thing, though, Ann. We talked about this on Plus Minus yesterday. That defense is doing so well right now. We mentioned all three defensive pairings are sort of among the top 20 in analytics in terms of being able to shut down chances at 5-on-5. So I mean, the only sort of rough question is who do you bring out if you want to give Del Gaizo a chance, because everybody is doing so well right now.
Yeah, it's very difficult to see, barring injury, which we never want to see, how he will slot into the lineup. We'll have to kind of wait and see what Andrew Brunette wants to do with it. But you almost don't want to interrupt such a good groove you have going defensively. Here's what I would say. I think Del Gaizo this is going to benefit him whether he gets in the game or not, because he's going to get practice time with the defense. He's going to become more familiar with what the Predators are doing defensively. And this may benefit him, down the road if knock on wood, something happens to another defenseman and they need somebody called up. The investment that Del Gaizo puts into this 5-game Western Conference road trip, whether he sees ice time in a game or not, is going to pay off for him, because he will again invest time, energy, learning into being the guy that's brought up at a moment's notice down the line if that happens. And look, here's what we know about Marc Del Gaizo. He ain't going to waste an opportunity. So he's going to take full advantage of this.
Yeah, it's tough kind of being like on the ice and not being able to play, but it's almost like that Black Aces situation in the postseason. Sometimes just being around the team,
yes,
for an experience like a road trip, like a Western Conference road trip, that can do big things to kind of help get a player adjusted to the team. So interesting to see if Del Gaizo gets a chance at some point. And if he does, who comes out? Because again, there's so much good chemistry on that blue line right now. And on the other end of it, Cody Glass hasn't been playing since earlier in the year. Although they the word around the team is that the injury is better than they thought initially. It seems like he's going to miss at least a little bit more time, but also hearing that it might not be too long before he's back with the team. So good news there.
Yeah. Don't want to see him out of the lineup long. Hate to see him out of the lineup at all, because I really feel like things were chawing along nicely between him, especially and Gus Nyquist. But another week to 2. So I don't expect that we're going to see him at all meet up with the team at the end of this road trip. But, let's wait and see what happens with Cody Glass. Hate to see him out, though.
Yeah, would love to see him back just based on all the work he's put in so far this season. Better stuff to look forward to tonight. Ryan O'Reilly is about to play in his 1,000th career game. He had a pretty great quote about making that far. Plus, just what has his impact been for the Nashville Predators this year? There's been a lot of players and coaches singing his praises so far. We'll talk about that in just one second. But first, I want to mention today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You can kick off the NFL season in style with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And that's because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's right. All you have to do is put $5 on your favorite team, and you get $150 if your team wins. It's a pretty good payout, if you ask me. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props. How many passing yards is Will Levis going to have in his Thursday night game against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week? Over, under, how many points are the Titans and Steelers going to combine for? Two eeky offenses with two questionable two strong defenses. You might want to take the under on that one. Plus, so many other player props, bets, and other great things that you can bet on. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season in style. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, Anna, a big moment in tonight's Predators Vancouver Canucks showdown is Ryan O'Reilly playing in his 1,000th career game.
Let's go.
They grow up so fast.
They do. And they still look really young. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, he's still, to me, feels like that little like up and coming prospect that from like Colorado. And it's just like the one that's like, this is one of the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so incredible. And I think it kind of catches him off guard too, because Ryan O'Reilly strikes me as a guy who just sort of keeps his head down and does the work and doesn't necessarily focus on big things like this. So it's interesting when all of us around him are like, this is huge. And I think he's just in the zone with he's doing the hockeying and is not necessarily probably as busy discussing it and stewing on it and chewing on it as everybody around him is. But yeah, 1,000 game. He has the 28th most NHL games of any active player in the league right now. You and I talked about this before we're recording. Ryan Suter has the most NHL games of any active player with 1,368. And he gets booed in several of those.
And as you said, yep, he hears the boos a lot in those.
Here's the boos. Yeah. The last person to reach this milestone was Steven Stamkos, who hit it at the very end of last season, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You love it for Ryan O'Reilly. We asked him in the locker room this week before they left, what's it like playing in your 1,000th NHL game? And here's what he had to say.
Well, you made it. Game 1,000 coming up.
We'll see. I'm walking real safe around the house now, and careful as I pick up my kids and such. But it's very exciting. Something. Not just for myself, but for my family and my parents. It's crazy. It's been a long road and such like that, and just a chance to kind of celebrate with them. And I still have a lot of hockey left to play, but I think for any hockey player to hit that milestone, something special.
First off, I've never related to a pro athlete more than the whole, I'm walking around the house, being careful how I pick up my kids. As somebody who's like a few months older than Ryan O'Reilly, I'm out for like 2 weeks when I sleep on my pillow wrong. So I feel I've never related to an athlete more in his 30s, and I'm being very careful. I do not want to like twist the wrong way too fast and wind up missing the rest of my career.
Yeah, I bent down to tie my skate and then I was out. That's how the rest of us live, Ryan O'Reilly, but kudos to you. My favorite part about that whole quote is that he's like, it's such a big milestone for my parents. And I'm like, thank you, Ryan O'Reilly, for remembering all those stinking miles your parents had to drive you and your brother for hockey, and how bad their car probably smelled from your gear and all the laundry that your mom and dad had to do. Like, I love that he's really focused on this, not just for himself, but for his family. Like, I think it's just really, it's a cool perspective. And the thing that's so funny about Ryan O'Reilly is I really don't think that this is something that is in the forefront of his mind. Yes, I think he's going to mark it, and it is a special moment, and he gets that. But he is just busy doing the thing. Like, he is one of the most disciplined, focused athletes. He really is the last guy off the ice. At practices, he is the first guy out there. Like, he is so focused on what he needs to do to be a great hockey player. He is such a pleasure to watch and to cover.
Yeah. And it's comes at a good time because there's been a lot of players who have just been singing O'Reilly's praises this week after his 2-goal performance. You heard Andrew Brunette talk about it in his post game, and it's like, look, like he's kind of the standard for what we want. Last person off the ice, first person spends extra time working on things he wants to improve in, and he said, oh, this isn't just like a good role model to look at. Like, this is the standard. Like, Ryan O'Reilly is exactly the type of player we want, and he talked about it rubbing off on some of the other players. So, for Ryan O'Reilly and what he's been doing for the Preds this season, I mean, the score, the scoring is fine, like pretty modest, but, still on pace for I think it would be 61, 62 point season, which would be, his best since that Stanley Cup year in St. Louis. So, he's doing that. But I think when you had sort of I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this, but maybe drama in the with the team last year, or
something
questions about the locker room dynamic, some of which may have been validated by what Barry Trotz had been saying and some of the moves that he kind of went out of his way to make this year. Read into that what you will. Just having a player like OReilly in there, and to an extent too, somebody like Luke Schenn and Ryan McDonough, bringing in Gustav Nyquist, who's been around, like those types of players, in addition to your Roman Josis, that's I think a big boost for this team, because you have all these young prospects coming into the fold, guys like Evangelista and Tomasino and Parsonen, trying to get like a full-time NHL job. And now they're going to kind of have a better idea of, okay, this is what it's going to take to be not just an NHL player, but a good NHL player, but a high impact NHL player. And having somebody like Ryan OReilly in that locker room to lead the charge, not just to give like rah-rah speeches and tell players, this is what you do. Like, this is kind of the advice I'm giving you, to show them what to do. This is what I do. Watch what I do. I'm not going to say anything. You just watch my routine, what I do, how I prepare on the ice, what I do pregame, how I play during the games. Watch that, and then you're going to get an idea of what the standard is to be a good player in the NHL.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And it's invaluable because, like you said, you can tell a young player something, but they're watching. And sometimes you don't have to say much at all. And I don't know that Ryan OReilly does a lot of rah-rahing. I think Ryan OReilly just does his business. And there's a huge impact. We've talked to players like Philip Forsberg, who plays with him. We've talked to young players like Luke Evangelista about the impact that he has. And he just is a presence, and not the cheer him on, he's unapproachable, oh, look at him. He is a presence. He is an example, just a quiet example of what you do to be excellent. And what I love about Ryan OReilly is he is the first one to say, look, I still have a lot of game left in me, and I still have a lot of skills that I want to get better at. And you look at his game, the little things in Ryan OReilly's game are just incredible to me. I have a hard time not focusing solely on him because he does so many little things that can change a play. And just even something as simple as faceoffs. I added them up. He's taken 18,671 faceoffs in his career. That's a lot of time in a very little circle, y'all. But he does everything, and he wants to do it with excellence. And I think that's great. And also, I will say, just he is for as much experience as he's had, for the success that he has had, he is extremely team oriented. There is nothing set apart about Ryan OReilly. He is extremely team-oriented. He is invested in his teammates. He's just a guy you can get behind and root for. So I am delighted for him. I really would like to see the Predators come away with a big win tonight for him. But yeah, Ryan OReilly, 1,000 games. Way to make me feel very, very old and slow and unmotivated. Thanks.
I feel my neck starting to tighten.
I know
a little bit right now.
Thinking about it.
I'm going to stop this recording and go do some yoga in a little bit. As mentioned, the Nashville Predators play the Vancouver Canucks tonight. The last time they played, a little bit of an oof game for the Nashville Predators. How do they fix that tonight? We'll talk about that coming up in just 1 minute.
But first, want to let you know this episode's brought to you by our great friends at the Sleeper app. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Look, Ryan OReilly could score 50 goals. The Preds could, in theory, hoist the Stanley Cup, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. On Sleeper, you can do everything from catch game highlights, post-game interviews, review stats, look at the scoreboard, and you can chat with other hockey fans about your favorite team and player. And playing daily fantasy hockey is so easy in Sleeper. Your entries can be made in under a minute. All you have to do is pick whether players will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in any given game. So if you think you know what's going to happen tonight in Vancouver, here are some selections you could make. Will Philip Forsberg get more or less than 3.5 shots on goal tonight? More or less. Will Connor Garland score more or less than 0.5 goals? I'm hoping for less. Will Ryan McDonagh get more or less than 2.5 blocks tonight? That's right. You can pick on things like blocks. And what about Roman Josi or Tyson Barrie? Will they have more or less than 0.5 assists tonight? If you think you know, head to the Sleeper app. If you correctly pick the outcome of 8 players' stats, you can win 100 times your bet on Sleeper. You heard me, Preds fans, 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
All right, Nashville Predators taking on the Vancouver Canucks tonight in Vancouver. Wonderful city there on the West Coast.
Yeah.
It is a, 9 o'clock Central
Yes,
time, I believe.
Yeah, I'm afraid it is. That is actually a correct time, y'all.
Well, I will get the cup of coffee ready.
Yep. Schedule naps accordingly.
As somebody who is on the East Coast right now, not great. This is a rematch from last week and a game in which the Nashville Predators kind of disappointed. Not only did they lose, the final score was modest enough, 3-2 in favor of Vancouver, but the Predators never really looked completely in that game. Only 17 shots on goal in that game. They just never really looked like they were on Vancouver's level at all. So what do the Predators need to do to sort of get back and play like the Nashville Predators we've been used to seeing them here so far this season?
I think the most important thing is to get off to a quick start. If you go back to that Vancouver game and you look at the advanced stats, and even if you don't look at the advanced stats, the eye test told you that Vancouver really ran the show for much of that game. So the Nashville Predators cannot afford to have a slow start. We saw a little bit of a slow start against Toronto. UC Saros bailed the team out. Let's not even put Saros in that position tonight. So I think the Predators have got to get off to a hot start. And we joke about the start times. This is going to be a different feeling start time, maybe a little bit, because they've hopped time zones. But no excuses. When that puck drops, the Nashville Predators have got to get to their game right away. One of the things we heard from the players after the Vancouver game is they did to us what we want to do to them. Mm-hmm. And you just got to get the upper hand the moment that puck drops. So get out there and get after it. Play 60 minutes of hockey. Better than 20 minutes.
Yeah, you talk about the hot start, needed the hot start. They absolutely do. And Vancouver needed, came out of that series strong. But for me, it was the start for the second period. Because remember, the Predators were being, a little outworked. And then right at the end, it was, I think, Colton Sissons that scored that goal to get the Predators back 1-1. And we were like, okay, it's kind of a rough start, but we got some momentum. Let's carry this into the next game. And the Predators couldn't follow up with it. And the Canucks scored 2 quick goals right at the start of the next period. And that was it. The Predators just couldn't really kind of climb back in it. And you wasted your opportunity for momentum there. And I think that's, something that the Predators need to learn is they need to learn how to counterpunch a little bit better. Like, okay, like, you came out with all the momentum early. Now we got this goal headed into the period. This is going to turn some things around. Things are going our way. You got to learn how to kind of harness that momentum and carry it on into your play for the next game. And that's kind of what cost them last time, is they had an opportunity to do that and couldn't.
Yeah. And you're right. So much of it is in little things like harnessing momentum and, managing small moments and kind of channeling them. One of the things that the Predators really worked on was skating the day after that game, because Andrew Brunette said, look, we didn't move our feet very well. Let me tell you what they did the next practice. They moved their feet. I mean, it was straight skating drills. There wasn't a puck to be seen. It was Andrew Brunette making these guys skate, getting used to like, hey, no, we move our feet when we play. It's little things like puck battles. The Predators have to come away with possession in things like puck battles. So I think overall, the Predators need to do some things differently, but I think you're going to see the changes happen in little moments, like the beginning of the second period. How do you react to a funny puck bounce that leads to a goal? What are you going to do in that little moment? So this is going to be a game where the Nashville Predators need to, like you said, harness the moments, like dial into those little opportunities and take advantage of them. And also, hopefully the power play will be on. The Predators had some power play chances late in the third period, the first time they met up with Vancouver, and couldn't capitalize. Maybe there is some momentum now with the power play after the Toronto game where take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, the biggest thing, Ann, is just, let's get some shots on goal.
Let's get some shots on goal.
That's the other thing is, it seemed like the Predators struggle with possession, but they were also a little timid when they did. We didn't have that sort of instinct that we saw in other Andrew Brunette coach games, where it's just, when you have the puck, make your move, be patient with it, but also, be aggressive when you get a chance. It seemed like it was back to the case of the Predators overthinking. Just a little bit. I'm curious, Ann, to see what the lineups are entering tonight, because the Predators tried to go with the young guns on that fourth line: Juuso Parssinen, new addition Liam Foudy, and Phil Tomasino. And that line was very bad against Toronto.
That was rough.
Neither of them played more than 10 minutes. I think Liam Foudy only had 5 minutes of ice time in his first game with the Predators. What do you think? Do they give some of those guys another shot, or is Andrew Brunette going to have to be like, okay, let's revamp this a little bit?
I'm very curious to see, because that was a rough game. I think that was kind of a rough game for that bottom line. I would not be at all surprised to see somebody like Michael McCarron come back in the lineup tonight against Vancouver. I think because of the things we talked about, like puck battles and that sort of thing, I think that a little bit more of what you're going to get with Michael McCarron up against the boards than you are maybe with Liam Foudy or Phil Tomasino. So I'm with you. I won't be at all surprised to see if there are a couple of lineup changes. I'm curious to see how Andrew Brunette deals with those young players maybe needing the opportunity for a bounce back game. I don't know whether they're going to get it, especially because this is an important game. This is the teacher, you failed a test and the teacher says, you know what, tomorrow come in and let's take a retest. You better study that night. You cannot fail the retest. And I think it's really important to the Nashville Predators to win this game tonight after the way they lost it last week. So I don't know. I think Andrew Brunette may err on the side of, hey, you guys may have to wait a minute to get back on the ice. We're going to, we've got to win this. We've got to pass the retest. It's going to be very interesting, the lineup decisions. I don't want to be Andrew Brunette today. Not today.
It is going to be interesting to watch tonight. Again, 9:00 Central puck drop. Predators take on the Vancouver Canucks. We'll be here to break down the game tomorrow with our one word and much, much more. And until we get there, where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on X. I guess I'll just drop the Twitter, but it still feels really uncomfortable to me. At AnnK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me at X at _NSMorgan. Follow me at penaltyboxradio.com. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Back tomorrow with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.